Okay, I know what you're thinking. Legacy operations? Don't worry. I'm only going to be playing Blast from the Past for this one. I'll be interspersing these with normal missions. Story, because I've never really done one before.
All right, people. Story time. This was almost 20 years ago, so my memory might be a little hazy. With XCOM gone and no sign of any survivors from HQ, I had somehow fallen in with a couple of other misfits the aliens hadn't managed to kill yet. We mostly kept our heads down and scavenged what we could. Until one day we found a map. A map claiming to point towards a human sanctuary. A gathering place for those of us still out there. We were suspicious, of course, but we didn't really have much else to lose. 5 minutes in either direction and we would have never met. But for whatever reason, my little group seemed to get along pretty well. We weren't much more than wandering vagabonds at that point, but the map gave us a purpose. Something to work towards. That meant moving through occupied territory, though. So this was sure to be a test of our resolve.
Te haré caso. Afirmativo, cubriendo. Ajustando miras.
Missed! I had been moving in the fringes, surviving on wherever I could. Truth be told, I had just about given up on everyone by then. Our so-called leaders had already told the world the fight was over, and I was in no position to convince anyone otherwise.
No longer a threat. A ello voy.
To Overwatch. I don't remember all the details, especially how I made it out of the base back then. I woke up in a smoking pile of rubble and crawled as far as I could. Beyond that, there was a lot of dark, bitter days in between. What's over there?
Supongo que está bien. En guardia.
I'm covering.
Stay out of my head.
hoped we could scavenge a few supplies. Maybe find something to eat at the diner. Unfortunately, the aliens didn't give us a whole lot of time to look around.
Taken care of.
I'm on it.
Explorando.
That's it! The first day went well, but now the aliens knew we were up to something. Our first stop yielded a few decent upgrades, but nothing that was gonna set the world on fire. And there was only so much we could take with us. We had to travel light. We had no idea who made the map in the first place. But if there really was some kind of hidden sanctuary out there, I wanted to see it for myself. The map was steering us right through town, but we figured maybe we'd creep through the cemetery instead to keep things quiet. I tried to take a few notes just in case we forged a new path. If history was going to be written by the victors, then I at least wanted to have something ready just in case we finally got our act together.
Oh, look
We
at
were
all
all a
this.
little suspicious, but we managed to pick up another recruit near the cemetery. As risky as it was, we needed all the help we could get, and I wasn't worried about splitting the gear another way. Once we got close, the aliens were all over us pretty quick. What we found was difficult to face.
Remember when I said, I prefer XCOM 1? Or at the very least, Enemy Within. Well, now I can have both.
La cabeza.
If anyone will, you know, bother to go, hey!
Vamos, vamos.
We have the resources.
Double time!
Let's make a total conversion mod.
Kill confirmed.
I'm sorry, what? Oh my god, the piece of crap Sky Ranger is here. I hate that thing. I hate it. I really do.
Check it before you get too close! They're running
But,
scared.
like I said, if anyone wants to try and get this thing, well...
In the 2 years or so since we lost the base, I hadn't heard so much as a peep about XCOM, much less run into any familiar faces. Most people never knew we existed in the first place, so there wasn't a whole lot of point in asking around. Get ready for a surprise! Multiple hostiles eliminated.
Vale, voy. Pilla. Ya estoy.
Going hard! I'd seen a few zombies during the early days of the invasion, but not like this. Not up close. They were human once, but we didn't have any choice. The last place you want to run into a bunch of psychic aliens is a cemetery full of fresh graves.
Si tú lo dices. Heading there now.
If you say so.
Te haré caso. Hostile neutralized. A ese le he dado fijo.
I'm not sure I ever really believed in the prospect of finding survivors, and the weapons my team were after weren't going to do much on their own. Notice how I said team? That's when I started to realize what the actual payoff here was.
Afirmativo. Ajá, me muevo.
I'm covering. I hadn't felt a sense of camaraderie in a long time. Most people were respectful of the surviving war veterans that were still out here. Some might even offer us a friendly smile. Still, I ran into plenty of people who couldn't do anything but blame us. Soldiers, politicians, doctors. We had all failed someone in one way or another.
¡Preparaos para una sorpresa! Varias amenazas eliminadas.
The cemetery was rough, but my new recruits pulled together pretty well. We had gotten used to salvaging gear by that point. We'd picked through just about everything left on the alien bodies.
I mean, seriously. I think we all know where these came from.
The map was driving us towards what looked to be some kind of freight yard. But first we had to cut across the edge of town near a local dive bar. I remember being genuinely excited at the prospect of finding a nice, stiff drink. Unfortunately, the arrival of Advent had ushered in a new era of restrictions and bans, which meant pretty much anything that you might consider fun was outlawed. Still, there was a chance I might find something good out there in the boonies. Things were quiet when we showed up, but it looked like we had just missed the action, with all the hallmarks of an Advent sweep gone south. In those days, they were rounding up stragglers pretty aggressively, and it didn't take much to provoke a fight. We never did find out who it was, but odds are they were either convinced to move to a city center or dumped in a mass grave somewhere. By now, we were starting to work pretty well together, and my little team had already racked up a respectable kill count by the time we moved in on the bar. That was the only explanation I could come up with, because it didn't take long for a whole lot of aliens to close on our position.
A ese le he dado fijo. Taken care of.
If you say so.
Vale, voy. Nada.
Frag out! This looks a little ugly. They're shifting their attack! Taking fire over here! There were still some independent businesses out there trying to survive the occupation back then. In a few areas, things almost seemed normal, but Advent wasn't having it. Constantly changing restrictions on unauthorized food sources made it almost impossible not to move to the new city centers.
Nailed him.
I got it, right?
Si tú lo dices. Compruébalo antes de acercarte. antes de acercarse.
Not even close. Finding a drink wasn't easy, but the good stuff was still floating around out there in the territories. All highly illegal, of course. If you couldn't trade for it, you could always try your luck in the abandoned cities. A lot of people disappeared chasing vices of the old world back then. We left the bar sober but fully intact. I couldn't really complain about the outcome. We were able to pull some usable armor vests and PCS components from the Advent units near the bar, but there was no sign of anything I recognized from XCOM. Past the bar on the outskirts of town was the freight yard, and according to the map, this was where the sanctuary was supposed to be. We found some old trail markers, symbols people called the hobo code back in the day. None of us actually knew what the signs meant, but we got the distinct impression we were being warned to steer clear. We had already come too far, and if the aliens had gotten to these people, we had to know for sure. The freight yard hadn't been in operation since the war started. With few exceptions, interstate commerce had all but ground to a halt by this point. I'm sure the old boxcars made for a tempting place to hide when the aliens rolled up on the town. Unfortunately, if anyone had survived, there was no sign of them when we showed up. I can't say we weren't disappointed. There was no sanctuary here, and if there ever was, the aliens had done their worst.
Compruébalo antes de acercarse. Afirmativo.
Maybe they thought they could get one of the trains running again to leave town. We were never sure. But what we found was nothing short of a massacre. The aliens had left no stone unturned. I had seen a lot of things I never expected back then, but this was something worse.
Supongo que está bien.
Rolling out!
En guardia.
Whatever hope our group had of finding a sanctuary here had all but disappeared. We were all knotted up, blinded by rage. We were hungry for a fight now. We wanted their whole damn army after us. And from what I remember, they were happy to oblige.
Vale, voy. ¡Esta es para ti! What's over there? That's it!
It was probably stupid of us to think we'd find some safe haven, some respite from the real world. We had all been out here long enough to know better, but even I had let my guard down a little bit just this once. Never again.
¿Qué hay ahí? I guess that'll be okay. Te haré caso. Overwatch. Guardia. En guardia. Overwatch. Eso es.
I'd like to think that at a certain point, some alien commander or Advent officer noticed our little path of destruction, and just for that one instant felt a sense of panic. The map had led us through bigger and better targets, and we had met every challenge.
Te haré caso. Toma esa.
That ain't gonna stop it!
Adjusting sights. Compruébalo antes de acercarte. Target disabled.
It was a tough fight, but we made it out of the freight yard in fine shape. The squad was feeling good at this point. We pulled whatever we could off the aliens and scrounged up a few things from the freight yard before moving on.
I think that's enough for now.